Welcome, everybody. This is a special edition of Meet the Players in Projectland, which is our first official, exciting, at least for me, maybe for you too, Jerry, exciting event for my book. So I'm so excited you're here with us. And this is exciting too, because it's the first time we're going to turn the tables. Usually I'm your Projectland tour guide, and I have a guest. So as I mentioned, others who have joined were guests in the past, including Jerry, who is our guest in December for Napoleon in Projectland, because he's a Renaissance man and he's into a lot of things, including, being a Napoleon expert, internationally recognized Napoleon expert right here. So in December, he came on to share his wisdom on Napoleon and Projectland. And so he came back, but only if he could turn the tables on me. So thank you, Jerry, for joining again.
You're welcome, and it's great to be here.
Awesome.
I'm not going to sing Be Our Guest, though.
Please don't sing Be Our Guest. Yeah, exactly. So here we go, and we're still getting used to using StreamYard, so feedback is welcome from everybody, and especially some of you gurus that have used StreamYard in the past. So this is our Projectland episode, Meet the Players in Projectland, and I'd love for you to share in the chat where you're dialing in from. So please share in the chat where you're dialing in from and why you're here. What would you like to get out of this, or what question or interesting tidbit are you looking for if you're working on this right now, figuring out how to get people on board on your projects and you're looking for tips? Why are you here? I'd love to understand that so we can try to serve you better. So please let us know where you're dialing in from. Wonderful. North Carolina in the house. So another East Coaster. I'm in Florida today. Jerry, where are you sitting?
I'm from Philly.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So Jerry in Philly. Awesome. Very good. Cool. So please let us know when you come in where you're dialing in from. And Ruth is curious to hear news and to learn about Project Guru Press. Cool. We will be sharing more about that. Thank you, Ruth, for that. Maryland, Willetta. Oh, so good that you're here. Thank you so much. Representing Maryland today. Oh, thank you so much for that. DC. All right. Excellent. So we got a lot of East Coasters here. It is 8 p.m. here on the East Coast. So hopefully we've got some friends in Asia waking up. I know this is a little tough one for Europe, but I think a few people said they'd like to attend for Europe because they didn't change their clocks yet. So that's helping us out. Very good. New Jersey. Thank you, Pete, frequent flyer. Yeah, New Jersey, right over from you, Jerry. That's right. And he can't talk back to you right now. So that's pretty good. So cool. So thanks for letting us know where you are. Please continue to let us know. It's always fun. We read every single chat after this. So if we don't get to give you a shout out during the show, we will certainly check out all the chats after the show. There are some weird blips here with StreamYard where I can't see all the comments right away. So please forgive us for that, but we will certainly see them all afterwards if we don't see them while they're happening. Harrisburg. Oh my goodness. Okay. Boston, Mass. Very nice. John's here from the West Coast, another wonderful frequent flyer of ours. Great. Thank you so much. Awesome. So West Coasters, East Coasters. That's so good. All right. So if you're new to Projectland, and I see that many of you with us have been with us before here in Projectland, but if you're new, welcome. We love newbies. There are no silly questions here. Bring all your questions, bring all your thoughts. We love it when you light up the comments as well. And in fact, I think I even have a new banner here that says, hey, welcome. Please light up the comments. So if you're not new to Projectland, you do know that every project is unique, which is why Projectland is a thing and why you might see this very exciting new symbol here, the registered trademark symbol. It got through, which is a huge day in the life of an entrepreneur when you get that registered trademark symbol. It's not my first one, but every single one of them is very exciting to finally get through that process. And so we finally got it on Projectland. because it is a real thing. And in fact, today's session, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what Projectland is and why I call it that during the show. So welcome to all of you who have been here with us before and you've returned to Projectland. And for those of you who are new, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. So if you don't know who I am, this is me. I'm Dawn. This is me on a good day when my hair was done by professionals. And we are, my main brand is PMOtraining, and you can go to PMOtraining.com if you want to learn more. And also the Project Guru divisions, of which the newest is Project Guru Press. And you're right here, right now on Project Guru Academy if you joined us live on LinkedIn. So Project Guru Press is our newest division. I was a Fortune 500 PMO leader, which is around the time, actually, I met you before that, didn't I, Jerry?
Yeah. It was back, I don't want to say how many years ago.
Long time
ago.
Yeah, a long time ago now. And but back in Philly, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I love, so there's one of my other registered trademarks. I love gamification. I love gamification and learning. Anybody else give me a yes to that if you are love gamification, because it's just really, a fun way to learn. It makes it stick. So I invented a game to help people learn the very complex Project Management Institute way back in the 4th edition, and then upgraded to the 5th and now 6th editions of the process. So if you're studying for your PMP, DM me and I'll shoot you over how to learn more about that. It's a nice way to learn what comes next questions. I've been blessed now to work with folks, teach folks, even virtually, in almost 100 countries, thousands of folks around the world. That is such a privilege and a pleasure to do. I love newbies and I love advanced folks too. So project management is just really something that I fell into by accident, and I'm so glad that I did. And now I get to add author of the upcoming book, upcoming soon, Meet the Players in Projectland, Decide the Right Project Roles and Get People on Board, which is the real topic for today. And our guest turned interviewer is Jerry Manis. Jerry is back, and Jerry has agreed to be the El Presidente of Project Guru Press. And I'm so glad. And our editor-in-chief. And in fact, he has been right with me every step of the way, encouraging me to write this book. I've been sending chapters to him, and we just finished last Friday the full edit of the manuscript, the first pass of that all together, so it's just becoming a stronger book, and I could not do this without him. And so I'm so grateful that he is my partner in this. And Jerry, thank you so much for bringing all of your experience in writing your own books to the table here, and for agreeing to be with us today.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here, and the whole process has been fun. So it's been fun doing our marathon editing sessions and seeing this book come to what it is today.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you like to have fun when you work too, because that's how I like to do it.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what the book cover looks like. I think I revealed it in our last session. This is the first draft of the book cover. And Jerry was instrumental in helping us design this with our amazing designer, Carrie Ellis, out on the West Coast. Well, I know we have some West Coasters here out in Seattle. So Jerry, take it away. We're going to turn the tables now, I guess, right?
I guess so.
Okay.
Well, hi, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that is the subject of Dawn's upcoming book, as you know by now. Meet the Players in Projectland, Decide the Right Roles and Get People on Board. Now, you might be wondering right off the bat, why a whole book on this topic? So you might be wondering, why a book on just meeting the players and forming a team? Isn't there a lot more to project management? Well, let's hear what Hall of Fame baseball manager Whitey Herzog had to say about it, and about Dawn's book in particular. He said the first most important job that a manager has is fielding the right team. And the intent of this book is to help project leaders do just that. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how did a Hall of Fame baseball manager come to read this book? Well, a little background on this. Whitey and I happened to be speaking at the same conference in St. Louis, and a few of us had breakfast together, and he had lots of really amazing stories, a lot of them about with him and Yogi Berra, which I could probably do an hour or just talking about that. But one thing he mentioned really resonated with me. He was talking about baseball today versus baseball in his day, and particularly around analytics. And he said these days, a manager gets to the ballpark and he's handed a sheet that usually comes from the GM with the day's lineup, and it's based on what the analytics says. And he said, well, no analytics going to tell me if Mickey Mantle has a hangover, or a player's been working on some adjustments, or somebody's out of sorts because his wife moved out. And so, you can go on and on. He said, because the first most important job I have as a manager is assembling the lineup and finding the right team, or fielding the right team. So I said, can I quote you on that? Because that's the very subject of the first title in our new project management publishing company. And so I sent him a preview copy of Meet the Players. He said, send along a copy. I'll take a look. So I sent him a preview copy, and voila, you see his quote here. And the reason for this book, because knowing the players and get everyone on board is truly the first most important job a project manager has. And today we're going to discuss why that is. And I know Dawn has lots to share about it. So here are the specific questions we'll be tackling today. First, do most projects really fail? And if so, why? How does understanding the players in Projectland help us succeed? What is Projectland, and why is it different from business as usual? What are the roles you're likely to encounter in Projectland? Do you know who your stakeholders are and what to do about them? And can you really get the right people in the right roles and focus together on the win? So, Dawn, to tackle the first question, we've all seen random statements about this, but do most projects really fail?
Well, let's dig into it. So there was a book written, and that was called The Most Important Business Book of the Year, just back in January of this year. So just 2 months ago, as of this recording, right? And it's called How Big Things Get Done. And they analyzed 16,000 projects. So if you're by your computers and you're commenting, I would love for you to take a wild guess to fill in the blanks that I have shown on the screen here, which if you're driving or whatever, don't look, safety first, I'll share by voice. So, but go ahead if any of you are seeing this. Only blank percent achieved the cost goal. That's number one. Number two, only blank percent end on budget and on time. Number three, only blank percent end on budget and on time and deliver the promised benefits. Go ahead and take a wild guess, everybody, and just put some numbers in a row, 1, 2, 3. What you think about those percentages could be. And by the way, this came out when we were in full edit mode, right? And so we doubled back and we added these in to the manuscript, into the introduction of the book. And if you stay to the end, you can get that introduction with the stats downloaded and as part of the whole sample that we have for you available on after the show. We'll tell you how to get there. And so just in case you want to have some conversations inside your organizations about, do most projects fail in your organization? What are the industry, results and so forth? And so it might be helpful for you to use on the job and have those conversations if you like. So I see some numbers coming in. 10 for all from, 2 folks. So I'll take 10% across the board. I hear 15, 10, and 05, sub 10, 10, 5, 3. Okay, so we've got some guesses.
Not a whole lot of confidence in project management.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are Yeah, the people that are answering are mostly some of the gurus, right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
they're like, yeah, we know it's hard. It is hard. It is hard to achieve the cost goal, to achieve the budget and time goal, and to achieve certainly the budget, time, and deliver on the promised benefits. So those of you who said it gets harder and harder as you stack the goals, were right on the money there. So here we go. I'm going to reveal it. So 48% of the 16,000 projects, the analysis says, the book says, only 48% achieve the cost goal. So less than 50%.
And that was only the cost goal.
And that's only the cost goal. Absolutely. That means most projects fail. The 50% mark says most, right? So most projects fail in achieving the cost goal. I think, if we say 48%, that's not 52% achieve the cost goal. Hey, more than 50%. Yay. No, it says less than 50% achieve the cost goal. Boo. Right? That's just a budget. Okay. 8.5% end on budget and on time. Boy, that's a huge drop, isn't it? It's a giant drop. 8.5% end on budget and on time. And then
it's funny, before you consider the 48% fairly successful, you have to remember to achieve the cost goal, but it didn't end on time and it didn't deliver the promised benefits. So
right.
it's clearly a failure.
Yeah, like way 2 thumbs down. Like if I
Right.
had more thumbs, I would use more thumbs, right? So you can see at the top of my of this here, I have OMG 0.5%. Only 0.5%, half a percent. What? And on budget, on time, and deliver the promised benefits. So, and this is just new. This is new news. I mean, humans have been doing projects for thousands of years. Thousands of years. We've built pyramids. We've gone to the moon, right? We've built lots of buildings. I mean, we should have learned something by now, right? And every time I grew up in IT, and IT projects are notorious for some of these failures, right? Notorious. And, it's like, okay, IT is a very young industry. It's a very young industry. It's fast paced. It's moving a lot. There are a lot of factors. You can't even see. It's not like a building you can see. You can go, oh, gee, that foundation, that looks pretty good. Like you can't, it's stuff you can't really see very well sometimes. So, I'll give it to my IT friends that's real hard. But come on, these construction projects, I'm just teasing. They're hard too. They have different types of difficulty. But so in studying the IT factors for so many years now, every study I've ever read said the statistics say most projects fail for those two, right? And especially for those. And costs aren't just financial. I mean, failure isn't just about financial part and time and delivering the benefits. I mean, did you know that an IT glitch released prisoners early for like 15 years until somebody came in and audited and realized no prisoner is like, when the doors open, no prisoner is like, gee, that seems like, I thought that wasn't today.
I made a mistake.
I mean, gee, hey, I don't think that this is right. No, they're like, okay, you're walking right out, right? Nobody's saying a word. So reputation can be on the line for these things as well. So failure can mean a lot of different things, not just those, 3 factors, right?
And you hope the nuclear projects have a better success rate.
Yeah, so you're right. So to mention that, so I was doing a talk and I mentioned this, and I say most projects fail with conviction, right? It's a couple years ago. And this gentleman, gets pretty irate with me, and he's like, I don't believe it. I do not believe it. That is wrong. Show me the statistics. Show me the proof or whatever. It's like, that can't be true. And I said, well, every study I've ever read says this, but let me ask you a question. What industry are you in? And he said, nuclear. And I'm like, and the whole crowd, it goes silent, right? And I go, I'm so glad to hear that's not happening for you. Right. And then he was like, oh, right. Okay. I guess you're making a good point there. And he sat back down and was like, carry on. Right. So in regulated environments, you better have some controls in place that might be a little bit different than if you're working at a social media company, for instance, where, lives are not necessarily at stake. Yeah, very good.
So we can see most projects fail. I think we're all agreed on that, unless you're, like you mentioned, you're in a highly regulated environment. But now let's get into why. Why is that? I know you have thoughts about that.
Yeah. So why? And that is the big question, why? And certainly lots of organizations have lots of answers for this. Different types of projects have different answers for this. But I bet some people are licking their chops like this guy to find out what we have to say about why. So let's get into it. So there was a survey of 70 professional engineers, not software engineers, the actual regular sort of kind of engineers. And there were 70 of them, right? And they were asked this very question. Why do projects fail? Why are your projects failing? Why do you think they fail, given all of your experience and lessons learned and so forth? And here's what they found. And this is also in the book, if you want to bring this back to your organizations. Top 3 reasons for failure. 1, the project was not adequately defined at the beginning. Anybody ever deal with that? Give me a yes, right? The project manager was incompetent. So everybody here that's attending is trying to be more competent if you're a project manager. And I'm so glad you're here for that, right? Because you're working on your craft. Very good. So the project manager was incompetent is a reason for failure. Number 3, there was a lack of clearly defined project goals and objectives. How many times have you seen this? Right? So the top 3 reasons for failure all have to do with this. Improper management support, I would say. So did you know that improper management support is also a cited reason for project failure and one of the top reasons from their study? And what I would say is that if we go back to that top 3 reasons, right? If you say, listen, top management support and improper management support, not too much, not too little, but just right is what we're going for here. If they were engaged appropriately in the beginning, these 3 top reasons for failure would be eliminated. They could be eliminated, right? And so it's so important that we get the proper management support we need for projects to help us combat this very problem. So
it's also a top reason why a lot of people talk about resources aren't available. A lot of times that's because top management's not committed. So, why should the other departments or the resources be committed?
yeah, I mean, if you see that the big boss isn't showing up, we're like, well, gee, I guess it's not that important. I mean, I guess I can slack off here. I mean, that's kind of the message that gets sent, isn't it? So this book is a lot about the people side. Now, I am, I 100% identify with being a STEM person, right? I have a mathematics degree. I was in technology for a long time. I got to work with engineers for a long time. And, I feel very blessed to call myself a STEM person. But what that means is the people side of things can be particularly mysterious for me. Anybody else? Can I get an amen on a weekday on that one? Right? It's like, so I found that some people, especially my STEM friends, and I still get engaged in, technology and so forth quite a bit. They find that the people part is the most difficult part of projects. And so I have found that, the people part, and in my classes and stuff, I tell people like, listen, if you find the people part to be particularly mysterious and difficult, I am with you and I will give you tips for how you can work with the humans all along the way. Because who gets projects done? The people. Who can sabotage the projects on purpose or by accident? People. Who can help you succeed or fail? People. Not Trello, not Microsoft Project, not any other tool or process. People. The people are where it's at. And so that is what this is all about is the people, AKA the peeps.
Right, and I'm looking at there's a lot of great comments in the comment thread too. But that's true. Yeah, a lot of great managers, Ruth says, don't understand what proper leadership is. They don't prioritize properly, and then they can't make effective decisions and so on. But all that's true.
Yeah.
So okay, so yeah, I think we both agree that projects are all about people. I think we're all agreed on that. But I think you also reinforced a point I've heard quite a bit, that projects fail at the beginning, not at the end. So with that in mind, how specifically, which takes us to our next question, actually, how does understanding the players in Projectland help us succeed?
So let us think about this scenario. Okay. So we in the United States just finished football season, the American football style season with NFL players and stuff. There was a lot of hoopla around the Super Bowl this year. And so what if we said, hey, NFL players, guess what? It is off season now. And to do team building, we want you guys to play cricket. Go. Well, here's what Jerry and I found in the prep. So check this out. Now, any of you that know about cricket will really appreciate this. So I have not seen this before, but I did live in England for a little while, and one of my flatmates played cricket, and I love sports. And I was like, oh, this is cool, right? I can learn about a new sport. Here I am, right in England, and like, let me ask him about it. So I go, hey, Jonathan, when's your next cricket game? He's like, why do you want to know that? I said, well, I'd like to go. I mean, I'd like to see it. I like sports. I'd like to understand it. Maybe you could tell me it's about. He goes, no. Like, you don't want me there, or you can't tell me what it's about? And he's like, both. I'm like, well, okay. Like, what? Help me understand more about this, right? And he says, listen, it's really complicated. And then I thought, okay, I think I might be about to get offended. So I'm like, Jonathan, I just coached you in math. I mean, you think I'm not smart enough to understand the complications of a sport? And he's like, no. He goes, that's not what I mean. He goes, it's not that you're not smart enough. It's like, you have to grow up with this. Like, it's really complicated. These games can go on for days. And I'm like, days? What? That sounds like a Monopoly game at the beach house or something, right? And so then Jerry and I found this thing. I mean, imagine you take those NFL players and you say, go play cricket, guys. Like, the first thing they're going to do is probably go, well, what are the roles? Who plays what position? What are they called? And if you look here, it says there's a bowler, there's a wicket keeper. I don't know what these things are. It sounds like Harry Potter to me.
I'm looking at the glossary, and it says short or silly is a very near batter. You call some football player short or silly, is going to slap somebody.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty, is it? So I feel like if you take these NFL players and you say, go play cricket, they're going to take a long time to figure out, like, okay, well, what, I don't understand the roles. I don't understand the rules. I don't understand, who's the best person to be in that role. Like, they would never actually get to play because they'd be figuring out the roles and the rules. Well, just like this, we call this Projectland because, people, it's different. Projects are different than your regular day job, and understanding the roles and the rules are so important to being able to win, to setting yourself up for success and not failure. And instead, what happens is the bosses say, go do that thing. And you're like, I don't know what the thing is, but I better start running so it looks like I'm busy. Right. And so you might love this very new quote by this guy called Jerry Manis out of Philly.
Well, we were talking about it. I said, cricket isn't just baseball with a different bat. And likewise, projects aren't operations with a twist. So it's a different animal, hence Projectland. Of course, anybody in the UK right now is laughing at us, probably.
Probably. And, Ruth, I'm sure you could school us later on cricket, but Jonathan wasn't willing to teach me any of it.
So that goes to our next question we talked about Projectland. What is Projectland, and why is it different from business as usual, let's say?
All right. Yes. So when I talk about this is what I always start with now, is the definition of a project. Now, some of you gurus on here, you absolutely know this, so you can just kind of watch and see what happens in the comments. But I start with this because once many years ago now, we were kicking off a whole transformation in creating a PMO and everything in a hospital system, a major hospital system on the East Coast. And this woman who had been running this hospital for decades, I mean decades, stops me mid-sentence in the kickoff, raises her hand and says, "What is a project really?" And so I thought, if this brilliant woman that saves lives every day running this hospital doesn't know the definition, we better always start there. And so that's what we do. So with that, what I'd love to see in the chat, please, if you can safely chat with us, is another fill in the blank exercise. A project is a blank endeavor undertaken to create a blank product, blank, or result. And then I'll explain why I can interpret this into, the whole Projectland concept. So go ahead and chat, please, and share what you think the fill in the blanks are. And by the way, when I do this with non-PMP teachers, even PMPs get this wrong. It's astounding, and people gets really surprised by it that most people don't get this right. And so don't worry. So just give it a whirl. A project is a blank endeavor undertaken to create a blank product, blank, or result.
What I find interesting is a lot of people that are, PMPs or just, PMI members even, they've heard this drilled into their head so much that they make the assumption that most people will get this right. And so it's surprising how many really, don't. It's not something that comes natural, I think, to most
It's
people.
not. Yeah, absolutely. It's not. And that's, that's so important. Yeah. So we have, all right. So we have a few answers that are correct here. So Sebastian, welcome to Projectland. Sebastian, he got it right. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Thank you, Guru Crystal, who teaches this stuff. Awesome. So yes, that is absolutely correct, Sebastian. So you are the winner. Excellent. Very good. That's the first one I saw anyway. Others may have gotten it. And so this is where it all begins, is with the definition of a project. And people are like, "Oh, you're getting theoretical now." No, I'm not. And the way that I explain this is, it's basically like you need 3 ingredients to bake this cake. You need all 3 ingredients. If you don't have all 3 of these ingredients, you do not have a project. If you can define the work you're trying to get done in this way, then you can define it as a project, and that's going to help you succeed at what you're trying to accomplish. Then great, right? So temporary means there's a beginning and an end. So that word ongoing project, ongoing is a red flag. So I love hearing ongoing. What's that?
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, ongoing project, absolutely. Oxymoron, big shrimp, same thing, right? Like temporary, there's an end. There's an end. Unique means in the history of the world, nobody has done this thing before. In this time, in this place, with these people, something makes it unique. So for instance, let's say you're putting in a new software system, right? It's like this software system has been put in many other companies around the world, but not yours. There are different interfaces, there's different data, there are different people, something makes it unique. All those things make it unique. And if you stop and think about all the things that make it unique, that is important, because then it's going to keep you on your toes, because the uniqueness is what can get you, and what I call gotcha goblins in the book. 3 is it creates a product, service, or result. I love that word create. So if, to my newbies out there, it's like, do I like Projectland or not? Maybe I don't know yet. Well, if you get excited about doing something that nobody in the history of the world has ever done before, in this time, in this place, something makes it unique, and that there's an end to it. It doesn't go on forever, because maybe you're like me and you get bored easily, right? Then Projectland might be a great place for you. So you need all 3 ingredients to bake this cake. And I call it Projectland because you're a pioneer now, since nobody has done this thing before ever in the history of the world, and you're under the microscope because somebody's expecting you to produce some kind of product, service, or result. Then you're a pioneer. right? And that makes some people really excited. It makes some people really terrified. Thank you, Professor Jesse. Loves the gotcha goblins. Thank you so much for that.
Now, despite this image, project management's not a piece of cake.
It sure isn't. No, and anybody, give me a yes in the chat if you agree. Project management and projects are not generally a piece of cake. Hence the statistics, right, that we shared earlier, that most projects fail. If they were a piece of cake, everybody could do it and they'd succeed all the time, but they're not, which is why we're here.
Okay, so we've covered the basics. We talked about what a project is, what a project isn't. We have 25 minutes left to cover a whole zoo full of animals. So let's get into the roles, since the book is called Meet the Players in Projectland. So let's talk about some players. With that in mind, what are the roles you're likely to encounter in Projectland?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just use these animal avatars because it makes it more fun. And some people think project management training is boring. So I'm like, why? But why? Let's not have boring training. I don't want to be in boring training. Do you? So yeah, let's meet the typical players in Projectland. So this is the structure that is really helpful. Like if you're in a kickoff meeting where you show the structure and you show the names that of the players. So this is just like that crazy cricket outline of so you'd have names of who's going to be where and everything, just to show where are these people going to be. So we're gonna talk first about the team, which is in the gray box, and then afterwards we're going to talk about those people that are outside the team called the stakeholders. So let's get into the team first. So you can see here the team structure and everything. So let's talk about some animals. Okay, so I know some of you on this call love animals. So the lion says, guess which player I represent. Go ahead and chat in the comments and let us know what you think. Who do you think the lion represents? And then we'll give you some tips about the lion's role. And yes, Aaron, I see Aaron is here from Tennessee. Yes, Aaron, most C leaders think they should be a piece of cake. Yes, I wish I would have seen that a little earlier. Absolutely, Aaron, absolutely true. All right, so, look at this. Willetta gets it. The sponsor. Yes, the sponsor. That's absolutely correct. If you said sponsor, you are correct. And so the thing is, the sponsor is the leader of the Projectland jungle. So you may have heard the phrase, the king of the jungle is the lion, right? And also the queen, because I know there's some queens on the call. So leader of the Projectland jungle for sure is the sponsor. And the thing is that when sponsors roar, it's pretty darn scary. And when sponsors roar, the rest of the creatures in Projectland are on edge. When they're calm, cool, and collected, the creatures can go about their business, do their thing, do what they need to do, right? Same thing happens in projects. When the sponsor is upset, or reacts inappropriately to, let's say, a project manager or a team member coming to them for advice and guidance, for help with, notice of a problem that might be happening. If their response is to roar, guess what will happen? They will never get the truth ever again. That's what happens, right? I've seen it happen many times. So when we teach sponsors, when they go to sponsor school, many times it's like, listen, I want to tell you straight up, right? If you roar at them, you will never get the truth ever again. They will never be totally open and honest and transparent. So your answer instead needs to be, how can I help you? Right? Like, what can I do? Right? Give them some advice. Thank them for bringing, this item to their attention. So absolutely. So yeah, many of you got the sponsor too with Willetta. Good.
No, that's what I like about the book, is because for each of the roles, like the sponsor, you do spend time talking about, traits that are helpful, traits that are not, and things like that. So I think that's useful.
Yeah, in fact, each role gets its own chapter. We deep dive into its own chapter. So certainly, for sure. And so back to the statistics that we shared, here's a quote for you from PMI's Pulse of the Profession study. Actively engaged sponsors are by far the top driver of projects meeting their original goals and business intent. So if you want to be part of that tiny 0.5% that makes it, then you need an actively engaged sponsor, not the one at the beginning that goes, here's what you need to do, and then they disappear, you can't find them ever again, and at the end they're surprised it didn't actually, meet their expectations. Not that one, the one that's engaged the whole time. So that's much more to say about that in the book. So let's move on to the tiger. The tiger, and in honor of the tiger, I'm wearing some stripes today. If anybody else has animal prints on, let me know. So which player do I represent? The tiger. Which player do I represent? Let me know.
I only have my dog's footprints on my pants. He was tugging my pants before. That's the only animal prints I have.
That's like animal prints, real animal prints. That probably counts. That probably counts. Okay, cool. So the tiger, which player do I represent? All right.
John's comment about the sponsors is some of them roar, but they don't usually do any work.
Yeah, that's right. And that's not good. That's not a good sponsor. They would get a bad grade in sponsor school. Thank you, John, for that. Yeah, so John got it on this one too. The project manager. Absolutely, the project manager. So the tiger, isn't this tiger beautiful? The project manager is not the king or queen of the jungle, but awfully close. So many times, we do need to bring, as project managers, we do need to bring the issues, the risks, the real talk to the lion, and we want to make sure that the lion doesn't chew our heads off, right? Like, so if we have a good sponsor, we know that we're going to be safe there. And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we have a new sponsor and we have to get to know them, and we have to harness that big cat courage. If any of you have seen tigers up close, you know that they are also extremely big cats, and you have to harness that big cat courage to help your team get through the tough spots of Projectland. All right, so good job, John, and everybody else that got a project manager. So next up are the owls, whales, and eagles. The owls, whales, and eagles. So guess who we represent, they say. Guess who we represent? And by the way, so I have family. I'm very lucky. I have some family that lives in Hawaii. And we got to go whale watching when I was there in January for my niece's birthday. And if you've ever seen a whale up close, so let me know in the chat if you've ever gone whale watching and seen a whale up close. I mean, when the whale is as big as the boat that you're in, basically, you're like, whoa. I mean, it's so amazing. It's really so amazing. All right. Yes. And Pete asks, so while we're waiting for those guesses to come in, ever have a first time sponsor? Oh yeah. So many times the project managers have to coach up, because sponsors most often don't get to go to sponsor school, and they're supposed to magically be expected to know, what to do, and they don't know what to do. So many times for first time sponsors, Pete, thank you for that. Yeah, you have to coach up, and you have to help them understand, what their actions, what actions they're taking that are good, and you want to keep them working those good behaviors, and which ones are not so helpful. All right.
I think Robert has the answer.
Robert has the answer. Oh, Robert, he's on fire. Robert, yes, the steering team. Absolutely. Good job, Robert. Well done there. So, yep, the steering team. So, very good. So, notice the parentheses here. The steering team is not a committee. It's one of my pet peeves, y'all, when people say it's a steering committee, because we cannot manage projects by committee. You cannot. The clock is always ticking in Projectland. If you've ever been on a nonprofit board and you've got committees and you deal with committees of any kind, then it takes a lot to drive consensus. It can take a long time. It's energetically draining, at least for me. And so we do not want to manage projects by committee. So to help people understand that, we use words. We call it a steering team instead. So nice job. Yes, there is such a thing as sponsor school. Yes, we have it. We had to create it because sponsors need and deserve sponsor school. Absolutely. All right. So next up.
Dawn, I was going to mention this also serves to address blind spots in the project manager or the sponsor, because sometimes I'll have blind spots, and between the eagles with their wide vision, and they can see the forest over the trees, and the whales diving deep, and again, and the owls, for instance, you have a couple metaphors there. They're wise, they can see at night, and things like that. So I think these things are just thinking tools. They work great as thinking tools, and people have all different interpretations, which is great because it gets it thinking about what kind of characteristics you need. I know you have an appendix in the book where it talks about all different animals and traits and things like that. People have a lot of fun with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get to our last set of the team members in a moment. So while you guys are deciding who we represent, the gazelles, bison, and dolphin, I'll tell you a little story about that. So let us know who you think we represent, the gazelles, bison, and dolphin here. So yeah, I was out. I've spoken about animal avatars a number of times now, and I had this exercise with a group in an area where there was actually a lot of hunting, and in the country, in the US. And they were like, they had their own ideas about animals, boy. And I mean, I come from central Pennsylvania. It's part of the culture there too. Like it's, I get it. And so we had some great debates, and it was really fun. And they wanted to argue with me about the animals I chose. So from then on, I was like, okay, it's not about that, right? It's not about who's right and who's not right. It's about the thinking tools that we're trying to offer to get people to think differently about the characteristics that not only are you recruiting for skills, but you're also recruiting for characteristics that you might need, on surrounding you and helping you with any of those blind spots if you're a leader, or helping you to get the kind of advice and guidance you need if you're a leader, and so forth. So, oh, look at this. We have a winner, the project team. And thank you for saying that you love the metaphor. Thank you so much. So yes. So we got Sarah Lou here. She wins it with the team. And yeah, so we have here the team leaders also are, so they're like, oh, okay. So look, we have, in the chart, which you'll see again in a second, we have team leads, and then we have the subject matter experts, right? And what's interesting is many people at the beginning of a project do not self-identify as a subject matter expert. So if you say, I need subject matter experts, everybody's like, yeah, where are they? That'd be nice. You're like, no, you're going to be a subject matter expert. You're like, what? Wait, what? And so what I coach people on with that, it's like, look, if you don't self-identify as a subject matter expert right now, don't worry, because you're a pioneer here. You're the only person that is going to end up doing some of the tasks that you're doing on the project, which means you're going to be an expert you're going to know more than anybody else by the end of this project. And then they're like, oh, okay. Right. So, so team leaders are, the respected alphas in their version of the animal kingdom, right? So, like for instance, maybe you can see this these bison here, right? So we've got the bison, the gazelle, and the dolphin here, and this guy in the front, this bison, woo, he's the alpha. Can't you feel it? So the idea is that the team leaders, you don't always have them on a team, obviously, but when you have a geographically dispersed project, you have a technically complex project, and you've got different, technologies or technical areas that could use some guidance. You don't want one project manager having 50 people report to them directly. So you would set up team leads, for some of these situations where the team lead is the respected alpha in the herd, basically, like, they're respected in their area, and they would coordinate the work of their fellow experts in that area. And I feel like the mom gazelle was taking the picture. What do you think, Jerry?
I think so. Well, I think what's interesting about this too is the gazelles, obviously they're known for their speed. So they're the people that are going to speed through things and keep people from getting in the weeds and stuff like that. And you have the bison that just barrel their way through and they'll make things happen. The dolphins are playful and are great with communication. So you can start to see, have the makeup of the team. And then some people say, well, there's yet other personalities. You might need somebody who's very meticulous and looks at every detail. And that's where you have all those other animals, and people can look to their heart's content and say, what do we need for this team? Which I think is it works as a great metaphor. But
Yeah,
I'll mention we currently have a project management expert who is also a zoologist reading the book. So it'll be really interesting to see what he says.
I can't wait to see what he says, and I hope
Yeah.
he likes it. I'm like biting all my nails off over here. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. So now you know the players on the team. Okay, so we covered the sponsor, which is the lion, the steering team, which is represented by the owls, the whales, and the eagles. The project manager, which is the tiger, the team leads and the subject matter experts, which are the bison for that strength, the gazelle for the speed. By the way, did you know that gazelle can outrun a cheetah? Everybody thinks cheetah are the fastest. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Yes, they are, except for they have to get the momentum going. So a gazelle can outrun a cheetah by bobbing and weaving. And those risks are coming on your projects and in Projectland. So I love a gazelle for the speed. And then the dolphin, who bring the fun and the communication to the mix. So that's our team in the gray. All right. And John has already done the segue for us. Thank you, John. For the interested parties or recipients, let's say. This is part of what's coming next here, because this is our final set of players to meet in Projectland, which are these guys on the right-hand side outside the project team, the people who are outside the project team, we call stakeholders. So don't worry, vegans, it's stake, S-T-A-K-E, stakeholders. Okay.
Here, I was going to hold a big stake. But, okay, so that takes us to our fifth question. Do most people even know who their stakeholders are, and what do you do about them?
Yeah, so there are, we have one of the chapters titled 3 Surprising Categories or something like that. So here are our animal avatars for our stakeholders. These are the 3 surprising categories, okay? So first is the cheerleader. These are the people who love your project. They're so excited. Maybe they were lobbying for your project to happen for the past 3 years or something. They love your project. They want to help. Maybe they are really excited for you as well. But the problem is that these cheerleaders can also get underfoot, right? So when I cook, I drop something on the floor, the dog is like so excited because she's like, that might be for me, because she knows anything that hits the floor is fair game. But she can get underfoot, and that could be a big problem, right? So you have to harness the cheerleaders' energy for good. Otherwise, they can make a mess of things. The second category are the finicky fans. So some of you, Jerry in Philadelphia, for instance, having been a Philadelphia sports fan for over 20 years for myself, I have definitely met some finicky fans.
We even threw snowballs at Santa Claus.
Famous for that. Philadelphia is famous for that, right? So the flamingo, they're so finicky with their diet, and they flock together and they squawk together. So those are your finicky fans. So these are the folks that you want to turn them into cheerleaders and try to keep them away from the snakes. So snakes are the potential saboteurs. Now, some people get real offended because they think all people are good. Let me tell you, I wish that were the case, right? There have definitely been projects that I've run where there have been saboteurs, absolutely right up in your face, saboteurs trying to sabotage the project. Other times they're a lot more sneaky about it, and they're much more passive about it. And they're like the snake in the grass that if you don't identify where they are and what kind they are, while you're, happily going through your business in Projectland, they will jump up and bite you, and they can kill your project. It has happened. It absolutely has happened. So the pro tip here is figure out who from the snake, who and where I am, or I will jump up and bite you when you least expect it. And so in the book, we have some even more pro tips for how to do that. And unfortunately, you end up having to do a lot more work to manage these kinds of stakeholders than you do some of the other ones.
Yeah, unless you're a parcel tongue like Harry Potter and can talk to snakes, but that's besides the point.
Right. Yeah, sabotage is a real thing, Dave. Absolutely. And Dave's been around the block. He knows. He's seen it. He's seen it all too. Very good. So now you know the players in Projectland, right? So you've got the team, and then you've got those people outside the team that are the stakeholders in our 3 fun categories, which are really helpful to think about. You know, if you don't know who your potential saboteurs are on your project, you better figure it out fast and figure out what you're going to do about it. Because that can definitely put a hurting on your ankles and your project.
So now we know what Projectland is. We met the players. We have a picture of the roles involved. We can separate the happy dogs from the snakes, I hope. But now the trick is to get the right people in the right roles and get them working as a team. And as we know, that's easier said than done. So that takes us to our final question. Can you really get the right people in the right roles and focus them on the win?
Yeah. Yeah. So in this case, you usually have 2 choices. Okay. Here's what I think. I think you can, your first choice that you always want is to recruit the A team. And when I was looking for this, I found, the A team from my childhood that I absolutely loved watching on the left. And then I discovered there's a new A team in town, which I didn't know. Anybody else? Anybody else is new too? Or was it just me under a rock here? That's choice number 1. So sometimes, especially in the cases of you have a highly visible, highly strategic project where it cannot fail, or the organization fails, it's highly visible to executives, etc. They may say to you, and some have said it to me, what do you need? Who do you need? And we will get you who you need. And then you get a chance to suggest, well, I want Hannibal, and I want, Face, and I need the A team, right? I need these guys. Now that doesn't always happen. And so
I think it's cool. It has to go to choice 2, right?
Right. And so since it often doesn't happen, then we have choice 2. Anybody know who this guy is? So this is Stephen Stills. He sings, love the ones you're with, right? So if you don't have much of a choice, then you have to figure out, okay, gee, do I have a gazelle? Do I have a bison? Do I have some other do I have a sloth on my team? What do I have here to work with? And how can I love them up and help them form as a team and become as great as they possibly can be, given, what their skills are and are not. And so we have another suggestion for a part of our Projectland, I think, theme playlist. Jerry here from Pete says, Black Sabbath has a nice LP, Sabotage. Very good. Thanks, Pete, for that. So yeah, so love the ones you're with. Now, of course, there's the hybrid of, hey, you're going to get some people, and then you might be able to suggest, but listen, we don't have any skills in the organization for this one thing we need, because this thing is brand new to us. So can we also, in addition to the people inside that we have available, who are hopefully as good as they can be, let's go out and get some supplemental skills as well. And then you have to get the people from, the outside and your people from the inside to form as a team too, and not have that like us versus them problem.
I think the key thing there, by the way, is if your choice is to love the ones you're with, and you need to get them focused on the win, whether you're dealing with the A team or the B team or the C team. So I think the key is, whoever your team is, it's key to align them with their strengths and get them engaged. Because if you do that, you're going to get the best out of your team. It's not a matter of, oh, I got the C team, so it's the best I can do. It's the project manager's role, I think, to drive that engagement and align people with their strengths.
Yeah, and pro tip from change management guru Dave here, you need to regularly manage expectations with the sponsor when you're in the situation of loving the ones you're with. Absolutely agree. Yeah. So thanks for that. And so here we are at the end, and right on time.
I promised Dawn I wouldn't make any chick jokes.
So, how are you going to use what you learned today to maybe think differently about your team? I maybe identify what creatures you have. What will you do with what you learned? Go ahead and put in chat, a favorite tip or story that resonated, what you're going to do with what you learned. How are you going to create your plan to recruit the right peeps and get them focused on the win? So, with that, you can also reflect and prepare your final questions on what we covered today about why projects fail. And remember, just in a moment, I'm going to share with you how you can get a sample of the book to review that includes the statistics and the studies that we talked about why most projects fail, so that you can bring them inside your organization and have a conversation about that, so that you can avoid those reasons for project failure in your organization. So,
and I will add, I read Dawn's book, and what you've seen today just scratches the surface. It's a great primer for project newbies and experienced pros, and it has a lot of practical advice, such as just a couple examples. How do you run an effective kickoff meeting, or how do you conduct the initial planning with your team, and other real life situations that most project managers are going to have to master pretty quickly. So it's not academic fluff or theory. And it's not all ducks and flamingos. So I think a duck does make an appearance at one point. But I learned some great techniques reading the book, and I've been doing this stuff and writing about it for decades. So there's definitely something for everybody in it. And it's fun to read. So that's what I'll say about it.
Thank you, Jerry. That was my hope, that it would be fun for people to read and that they would get golden nuggets out of it, even if they're pros. And fun to read, I think, is just really important. I love reading. I love books. And so I'm so excited to finally become a real author like you, Jerry. So everybody, if you'd like, please go to, what's that?
I just play one on TV.
That's it. That's right. Now, for real. So if you would like to get your sample of the book with, with two of the chapters, the introduction that has the making the case for, why most projects fail, and the first chapter, go to Project Guru Press. So we were rolling out, Ruth wanted to know more about it. This is literally, and like pun intended, fresh off the presses. So if you don't get the thing immediately, if you don't get it immediately in your inbox, you should get it within the next 24 hours. We just put the site up in time for this, with it coming soon and the ability to be the first to know. So go ahead over there to projectgurupress.com so that you can get your copy emailed to you within 24 hours or so. We'll see how the machine cooperates with us. And awesome. So it looks like Aaron says, I will use some of those stats to shock people into reality. Yeah, Aaron, especially improper management support. You bet. They don't think they're the problem, do they? It's everybody else, right? No. So you will, so good, Aaron. I'm so glad that's going to help you. And thank you so much, Robert. You were a rock star tonight. I learned some great tips to hold attention of attendees, which was probably a side benefit of the content itself. Good. So we're getting better, I hope, at these events, Robert. Thank you so much. So anything, Jerry, that you saw as far as questions that we didn't get to that you want to cover, or did we kind of hit them as we went?
Let's see. I think there's a lot of great comments, things like that. So like Willetta says, in planning, I'm going to think about who's on the team, map them to the animals, and intentionally think about strategies to move them through their change initiative. And I think that's the whole purpose of all this too, is to really, the animals serve as a great anchor, I think, to jog ideas.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we were at in PMI in Minnesota, I got to speak at their conference, their biggest conference of the year in August. They did animal avatar analysis in a workshop, and they had a lot of fun making the connections between the animals and the actual humans that they've worked with. So very good. So thanks.
There is a question from Sebastian who says he enjoyed the event, which is great. And how do you stay updated on emerging trends and developments in the field of project management?
Yeah, stuff is happening all the time. So, follow us, Sebastian, stay with us in Projectland. You can certainly follow some of our our other gurus that are on the call here as well that put stuff out all the time. But some of it is about paying attention to what's in the news even, and reading books, and getting engaged with other folks that are in the field, because at least I've found that I learn the most from people that are doing the work, that are really doing the work in the organization, and that are even outside of your organization. So coming here to a community like this, and getting engaged with us, you'll pick up things from each other, which is really, really powerful. So thanks for that question. That's awesome.
Pete is a great one. How many tigers on the multi-vendor projects is too many? So you ever see co-tigers?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So it's a great model if you've got multiple vendors where each one of them has their own tiger so that they can talk to each other. But there needs to be a chief tiger, and it's usually the client. So there must be a chief project manager of all the project managers, where they make the call. Just like there can only be one, project leader, the lion, the king or queen of the jungle. There can only be one. There can only be one chief tiger also, in my opinion. Otherwise it gets real murky, and that's no good for accountability. So thank you. Definitely.
Back to the Napoleon quote, it's better to have one bad general than two good ones.
Yes. Yes. And we offer that at the top of a chapter as well.
Yeah. I've seen companies where they have a technical project manager and a business project manager, and it's the same thing. They get in debates and need to figure out, okay, who owns the call.
Yeah, who makes the call, right? And how are you going to make decisions? So those decision-making, decisions that get made at the beginning, like you said, it can fail at the beginning, right? Like, who's on first?
Yeah, right.
Who's on first? I mean, really, back to baseball. Who's on first? So, so anyway, we are at about time. Time has gone so fast. Jerry, thank you so much for doing this with me tonight and turning the tables. I appreciate it. And thank you so much. And Jesse says, and Jesse knows baseball for sure. In baseball, one manager, but a lot of coaches. There it is. That's the winning mic drop right there.
That's
so
true.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here in Projectland tonight. Again, if you were new, I hope that we see you again next month. If you are not new to Projectland, thanks for coming back and sticking with us, being part of this community of ambitious project people. We appreciate it. And if you haven't already done so, go out to projectgurupress.com and get your, sign up to get your sample of the manuscript so you can check it out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.